Hello everybody, I hope you're all well and welcome back to Voicenotes with Jordan Theresa. Today we have such an exciting guest, one of my favourite commentary YouTubers, the always intelligent, insightful, voice like silk, the amazing Tee Noir. How are you, Tee?
I'm doing so good. How are you today?
I'm really well, thank you. And for anyone who possibly doesn't know who you are, but I highly doubt that because there's so much crossover in our audiences, but explain what you do and what you're about.
Yes, so my name is T, as you so beautifully introduced me. I'm a commentary YouTuber, mostly a pop culture commentary with some mentions of queerness and, of course, a center on Black womanhood. And, I just try my best to be a critic, a deeply analytical critic, but also fair and balanced and fun.
Yes, T's videos are so I feel like you had you had a really good humorous spin on things. They're quite playful,
I
but in the
appreciate
same
that.
way, I really like the way that you balance talking about very serious issues that you feel so personally connected to. I just such a fan of your content. This is an honor. This is an honor.
The feeling's
um,
mutual. I love your videos too. The feeling really is mutual.
Thank you. And one thing I love about T is, to be fair, this is quite common with a lot of commentary, pop culture commentary YouTubers, is I love that T talks about reality TV because I just feel like reality TV is like a gold mine of just content and things to talk about. Is there a specific TV show that you loved covering? And is there a specific reality TV show that you were like, oh my God, I cannot wait to finish this video so I don't have to watch this again?
You know what? I won't even lie. The Queer Ultimatum was a little bit of a pain in my ass. It was. Yeah,
Really?
because it was really, I think naturally because it's queer, it was politicized in a way that it's already my job to politicize this stuff. So having walking into it and it was already these deep ass conversations, I'm like, okay, well, how can I take it further? But how can I not push it too far? Because at the end of the day, these still are people and these are their real lives and these are sensitive topics. And yeah, so I kind of couldn't wait for that to be done. But at the same time, I had such a great time filming it. I had a panel of other queer folks on there with me, and that was so much fun hearing their perspectives and just chopping it up about that mess of a show.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that video. Again, I loved the panel. I love hearing all the different conversations. I was obsessed with the Queer Ultimatum, and so I got my boyfriend into it so badly. We were because we binge watched so much fix. We watched, I was about to call it the Straight Ultimatum, but the Straight Ultimatum we watched and we were obsessed because we were like, I cannot believe these 23-year-olds want to get married. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I think also what I like about these shows is not only do so many American shows they're like, oh, you know what? This is already messy. Let's throw marriage into it. And you're like, whoa. But also my boyfriend, who is literally right here, he was like, I can't stop thinking about Tiffany and her girlfriend. What is going on? Tiffany needs to leave her. Texting me whilst he's at work because it's consuming him.
No, I love it.
Yeah. And I, again, with the marriage thing, I think that it's so, again, I feel like marriage is almost utilized as a tool to sort of, I'm trying to word it, but the tool to sort of bring up the stakes, because all of these shows could so easily exist without the marriage concept. And there's even reality shows that utilize marriage, like Married at First Sight, but their weddings aren't actually real.
Oh, okay.
And I'd love to know your thoughts on marriage being utilized in these shows to up the stakes.
Oh my goodness. I find a commonality between all of the reality shows that I watch that center women. And it's that there's always this picture that girls imagine that, we're fed, we really are groomed to really desire marriage as the ultimate goal, marriage and motherhood. And even as the times further and as modernized as you think we're becoming, marriage is still, oh, hi, kitty.
Sorry, she's just come back from the vet. She's having a little wonder.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying, T.
Yeah, marriage is still one of those things that like so many women deeply desire, and men are aware of this. And then of course when you commercialize it, the producers are aware of it and the audience is aware of it. And it's kind of like, I don't know, just dangling it in front of women's faces especially. It's very uncomfortable for me. I don't like that they do that, but I definitely see why they do it, because it's really interesting to see in real time the lengths that people are willing to go to achieve that picture of marriage and parenthood, motherhood specifically. Like, it's really interesting to see how people will bend and mold and, you know, deny their intuition and all of that stuff just so that they can achieve that. So watching people make horrible mistakes in real time, it's entertaining for us, but at the same time I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is kind of sad.
It's like, in a way, I think especially, do you watch Love is Blind?
I don't. I watched the very first season and I was like, straight people are not okay. And I just couldn't do it. It wasn't until very recently I was talking to someone and they're like, you know, it's for the absurdity. That's what the fun in it is. But I just, after the first season, I was like, there's no way. This is so dangerous. So I haven't seen it recently.
I think, well, with Love is Blind, it's like the first season was it at its almost, I think every first season of reality show is it as its purest form, because everyone that goes on that does not know what the aftermath is going to be. Unlike if you go on a, you know, third, fourth season, you see how many Instagram followers the last contestants have and things like that. And it's like your judgments become skewed in a way. And I think the way that marriage is honestly, like, in a way weaponized during Love is Blind is that these people will literally marry someone that they've known for 4 weeks just because they want to be married. And I especially find in the later seasons, because the way that they cast their show is they just reach out to people on DMs. So a lot of the women that go on it are like, I've been wanting to get married for 5 years. I just crave marriage. I want a home. I even have bought a 4-bed house, like all of this, wanting to fill it with a family and children. But then like the men that go on it are like, I actually do judge people by their looks, but I thought this would be fun. And I'm like, we've got to get these men out of here. This is not okay.
Like I said, I haven't been watching the show, but based on what I've heard, there's definitely some names that keep being brought up that I've been seeing online. AD and someone else. So
Clay.
Clay, okay. So this guy, I do vividly remember seeing a clip where he was basically like, you know, I kind of want to marry, but not right now. And she's like, well, we committed to this timeline. Like, if you wanted to do it the traditional route. And so I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, it's even worse that there are these women who are so like eager for marriage, and then on some occasions they get paired with men who you would think that they had no clue what the premise of the show was, the way that they're coming on. And then it just makes the women look even more desperate. I don't like it.
I completely agree. I think it's like, it's entertaining, of course, but it's so often at the expense of women. It's very occasionally at the expense of a man. And maybe this is my own biases talking here, but sometimes when it's at the expense of a man, I'm like, good.
Yeah, because we need to level this out. I need to see some male tears. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then with Clay, I will never forget when I was watching the show and he was like, I just think I'm going to cheat. Like my dad cheated on my mum all the time. I'm like, who is going to tell Clay that cheating isn't hereditary?
I heard about that too. I saw like a meme where he was like, he kept saying, I just don't want to cheat on you. I just don't want to cheat on you. So I'm like, so don't cheat on the girl. What the hell is going on here? Like, why are we acting like cheating is instinctive and something that you can't prevent? And like, you know, it's something that's fully within your control. Why are we having this conversation right now?
It's so painful, and it's like so early 20s, late teens core. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We should not be having these conversations when you're supposed to get married in 2 weeks, Clayton. Like, what's going on?
Clayton, you better bring out his government. No, seriously.
I'm serious, especially because AD, her personality is lovely and she's so gorgeous as well. And I hope that she finds the husband of her dreams, honestly.
Yeah, she deserves that, and it needs to not be him, because I heard he was on the reunion on some "She's the Love of My Life," and I'm like, well, let that be his problem, because I don't want to see him anywhere near her, and I don't even watch the show, and I'm like, stay away from her, or I'm gonna have to get involved.
Stay away from. That is my best friend. Stay away from her.
Exactly.
So the way that we start out all episodes of Voice Notes is we do TV show we're watching, book we're reading, and a song we are listening to. So is there any TV shows you're watching at the moment?
Right now, I am watching Real Housewives of Potomac. I think that I'm on season maybe 5 or so. I know that right now they must be on season maybe 9, but yeah, that's what I've been watching. Should I talk a little bit more about that, or should I just list out what I'm reading and the rest of it?
Talk as much or as little as you like about it.
Yeah, so the thing that's been sticking out the most to me in Real Housewives of Potomac, which before that I was rewatching Real Housewives of Atlanta, I did not realize, I mean, granted I was like 12, but I did not realize before, like, the anti-blackness and the colorism that just runs rampant in those shows. It just was not clicking for me. Are you familiar with Nene Leakes?
Yes.
Yeah, so she is the heart of, I think, all of the Bravo franchises. I truly believe, like, her personality put Bravo as a network on the map. Because prior to that, I definitely wasn't checking for Bravo. And then the Real Housewives franchise really took on its own life form, I think, because we have never seen a personality like Nene's. But, oh my goodness, like, Nene's confidence paired with her unambiguous black features, paired with the fact that she's big and, like, she's tall. When they called her a moose and that ran for a couple seasons, I was like, there's no way. There's no way, like, this is fully the Beyonce of the entire network. I can't believe this. And the fact that they let that happen for so long, and then to then watch Potomac, which came a couple years after Atlanta was a success, and to see all of these lighter complected black women pushed at the forefront of the show. Especially, I spoke about this on Patreon, there's a cast member, her name is Giselle, and she is light skin, light eyes, light hair. You know how people get in a frenzy over that particular image, and they really pushed her to the forefront to kind of market the show, just for her to end up being like the most, not the most boring, but like the least likable cast member, like, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's just, now that my eyes are open and I'm an adult watching that, it's entertaining and everything, but it's still like, oh, like a little painful to watch all that go down.
Yeah, it must be like, again, it's like, I was actually talking to one of my friends about this. When you start watching something and it like you watch it in a completely different way, because obviously you watch it, you know, you're years older, your frontal lobe is developed, like, yeah. And it just completely changes the way that you see absolutely everything. And I can imagine it's just so, like, just gets under your skin. I remember when I was obsessed with Hell's Kitchen, and I still would call Hell's Kitchen my favorite show. I used to watch Hell's Kitchen when I was a child, and then watching Hell's Kitchen as an adult and realizing how racist the contestants are to the black contestants was shocking. And then when I would go on the Hell's Kitchen Reddit to be like, I need to know if anybody else like agrees with me, and everyone was like, no, I think they'd be saying these things if they weren't black. And I'm like, really? Oh, really? And it was just infuriating to watch, and it's such a unfortunate pattern with reality TV, and I especially think with such a huge what's it called, like channel like Bravo, for them to not step in, for them to not even have staff that to clock onto this stuff, like sensitivity staff, anything like that. I just find so like shocking, to be honest.
Yeah, and even further, to go back to what we were talking about marriage and everything. On Potomac, it's even more hilarious to see these women either clinging to their dead marriages for dear life or really putting themselves out there to hurry up and get married. The first season, there was this one girl who she has 3 kids, and she moved in with this guy, and she every day, marry me, marry me, marry me. And I'm like, but I'm sure you can see why he's a little apprehensive, Katie. Can't you see that, you know? And then of course there's another cast member who is divorced from her husband but still lives in the same house with him and still sleeps in the bed and everything. I'm like, can we bring back the sanctity of marriage? If you're gonna be so obsessed with it, can we at least do it the right way, the not confusing or embarrassing way? Because this is a hard watch. But yeah, that's pretty much been my thoughts watching Potomac. It's been kind of painful.
Oh my goodness. I feel you on the sanctity of marriage stuff. Like, you know, when I'm scrolling on Twitter and I see, you know, Republican accounts talking about the sanctity of marriage, gay marriage, and then I hear that they're divorced. I'm like, I beg your pardon. You
Exactly.
literally broke the sanctity of marriage. I'm trying to remember what TV show I'm watching at the moment. I've been watching it. Do you know the show Heroes from the early 2000s?
Yes, I revisited that in high school. It was
Really?
my nephew was like 6 or so years old. Yeah, I remember that with Hayden Panettiere, right?
Yeah. I like feel, because I said this on another episode, but I feel a certain type of way about like streaming, and especially with, have you heard the news that they've postponed Euphoria season 3 again?
I haven't heard that, but then again, I stopped looking out for that show. But good to know.
It was like, I saw it all over Twitter, and it's been 2 years since the last season. I didn't enjoy the season before, but obviously new season of Euphoria means new video essay.
Okay.
Like the video essay girlies are like coming together to shit on Sam Levinson.
We're coming out of hibernation. Yes, another Sam Levinson drag. I can't wait.
Yeah. And so I'm like sat there like, oh, I'm sat, like I'm waiting. And they postponed it again. It's been 2 years since the last season. They postponed it again. And I just feel like a certain way about like modern TV shows that even though, yes, technically the CGI was worse 20 years ago and the technicals were worse, but also TV was so good. Like we got 24 episode seasons once a week. It would be like a communal thing. People would come over to your house to watch the season finale or an episode you're so excited for. And I just miss that like top tier, high quality TV.
Absolutely. They're not paying the kids properly. Something's going on. Like they're not nice to them. Something's happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. Like the culture has shifted, or maybe the standards of the people who make these shows possible have risen over the years, and these big companies are not able to meet that. Which the standards are always something simple, like just be kind to me, don't harass me, don't assault me, pay me fairly. But I guess this is just a bit too much to ask for in the 2020s. So I wish TV could go back to that also. Like I vividly remember exactly what you're talking about, like coming over. And you know what else I loved is every single day of the week there was, especially if you had several shows in rotation, there was another show to catch up with. So even if they came weekly and you couldn't sit there and binge, at least you're like, okay, on Tuesdays I can watch this, and on Thursdays it's reality TV, and then Fridays maybe the dance competition show. You know what I mean? But
I know exactly what you mean.
yeah, I miss that so much.
Like I like my most like hot take is that I like wholeheartedly believe that TV should not be binged. It doesn't mean that I don't do it. No, of course I do it. But like I am of the best TV I watched was like when Euphoria was coming out once a week, that whole communal thing of watching it, and I could like really mull over the episode. Or me and my boyfriend, we watched like 3 episodes of Heroes a week, which is even more than we did back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's just like you can take it in, you can think about it, you can get stressed about it, like, and it's so good. And I like all like the worst TV watching experiences I have, but to be fair, I think I relate it to like, I'm sure you get it, like binging shows for work. like someone think of the YouTubers, it's really hard for us. But, like having to binge watch a reality show, it just feels like your brain is like rotting, and like you just feel so horrendous afterwards.
Having to binge watch it, and then with me, I rewatch it sometimes several times to make sure I don't miss anything. And then as you're maybe taking your notes down, making sure like, and refer to this episode to reference, to exemplify whatever. It's not, I love my job, but it can really take away from the joy of just consuming media.
Absolutely. Like, again, same as you, I love my job so much. But there are like certain things where it's like having to just sit and, you know, it's so funny, like sitting and watching Love is Blind for 8 hours and then like complaining that you've had such a hard day at work.
No, exactly. But it's tedious. Like it's a different work on the brain that I think shouldn't. Of course, we don't want to be like those influencers who are like, try being an influencer for a day. You know, like we don't want to do that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, maybe you should try it though, because it's like mentally exhausting, and I don't think you get that it takes a lot of time. It's super tedious.
It is. I completely agree. And what are you reading a book at the moment?
I am reading Fearing the Black Body. I'm forgetting the author's name though.
I've read that book.
Oh,
Sabrina Strings, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult read for me. Which may surprise some, because I feel like that's how I structure the scripting in my videos, like $50 words, but like when I'm reading it, I'm like, huh? So I'm really taking in like 5 pages at a time, but it is a really good book.
Yeah, when I was reading that book, when I read all my nonfiction books, I often I read with a pen. So like any information where I'm like, oh, I'll like underline it and then I'll read it over and over again. Often I have to read around other people and be like, what does this word mean? What does that word mean? But that book is so good. I read it for when I made a video about reality TV show, when I made a video about The Biggest Loser.
I love that video. I remember where I was watching that video.
That is the reality show I think about. Like, that is like my Roman Empire. Like, I think about it all the time. I actually want to write like an actual just essay about the show, but I'm glad you enjoyed the video. It was tough to make, but it was like very rewarding. And I'm really glad that the video didn't get taken down, because I was expecting the video to get like struck by like the people that own The Biggest Loser, but they're like, well, cat's out the bag, it's too late now.
Yeah. No, I really love that video.
Thank you so much. The book I'm reading, I have it right here, can't keep my nose out of a book these days, it's called Yellowface. Have you read it before or heard of it?
No, I've heard of it, but I've not read it.
It is, just in case anyone doesn't know what it's about, and this isn't a spoiler because it's literally in the first chapter of the book. There are these 2 authors who are friends. They're like friends, not like best friends. One of them is really successful and the other one is not. The successful one chokes on a pancake and dies. Oh. And when she dies, her friend steals her unpublished manuscript and publishes it as her own. Oh. And the manuscript is about Chinese labor corps during World War I, and that's why it's called Yellowface. And it is, I would say, like, it's a really good read. And one thing that I thought they got so right was when a white person is in charge of telling stories about people of color, and how often they'll like throw one nice white character in there for good measure. Mm-hmm. And, you know, things like that. And I found that part of the book so interesting. I will say it is about 100 pages too long. I think they rehash, because I'm so interested in like the editing process and like the white savior aspects of it, and also like the thievery of it all. But then they keep like milling over the fact that the author of the book, the fake author, is obsessed with like reading positive and negative comments about her online. Like, they keep talking about like how she spends all day on Twitter scrolling through her negative comments, reading articles. And maybe it's because like I'm in the influencer space, but like I'm like, I don't care. But like, welcome to my life. Like, yeah, right? I don't care. Yeah, especially because you don't you don't empathize with this character anyway. So to have to read so much of her, I'm like, sometimes when I read books, I feel sad because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna miss them. But with her, I'm like, bye, bitch. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
you really described that really well. I'm gonna look into that book. But yeah, thank you for the heads up about like the 100 pages too long, because sometimes I feel guilty when I'm just like, okay, I'm getting bored now, we're losing the plot. But yeah, thanks for the heads up.
No, like it's totally true. Like, because sometimes I can't tell with books whether, because I don't know about you, but when I get to the end of a book, I start getting like, I've nearly finished a book. Oh my God. Woo! Like, so excited.
For sure.
And then when I'm like getting to the end, I'm like, oh brother, like come on, like getting like through fully, like feel like I'm lugging through it. But this one, and I messaged my friend who's read it, and I was like, does it drag a little bit, or am I just being impatient? He was like, no, it would definitely benefit from being a novella over a novel. But still like a pretty good book regardless. I would recommend the read, just like a pre-warning on the slump towards like the second half. But is there any songs that you're listening to at the moment?
Yes, I just listened to, what is the name of it? Because I sent it to someone and I was like, this is a hit, I fear. It is Jump by Tyla.
You went to the album launch party, right?
Thank you so much for bringing that up yourself, because I was going to bring it up anyway. But now that you've asked me, why yes, I did go to her album release party. It was a cool vibe. I'll be honest that as I further in the creator world and I attend events, you kind of get a vibe of like what's expected of you and where you're ranked as an online personality. So that was definitely present when you have a huge star like Tyla in the building. So that's all I'll say about that. But other than that, you know, cute venue, open bar, people taking pictures everywhere, the works. But yeah, congrats to Tyla. She's really doing it.
I just love her. She just seems so nice. Like, you know, someone just seems so nice. And I love the song Water, and I'm going to listen to her new album. I'm listening to a song called Good Lies by Over Mono. It's like a sort of techno-y, drummy, like housey kind of song. And I feel like because the sun's finally coming out in the UK, and you live in the city you live in is seasonal, right?
Yeah, I live in NYC.
Yeah, so like you get like when the sun comes out, it's like, I'm alive, like finally. And it's giving like springtime. This is gonna be like my spring song. Like whenever I listen to Nice for What by Drake, it just immediately reminds me of the summer. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you have any songs where you're like, this is my summer song? I love it.
You know what? I have maybe summer artists. I think Tyla would definitely be one of them. She's growing into one of them because all of her songs kind of have that, like the vibe of however she looks completely matches the song, like from the outfit to the hair to literally the water. You know what I'm saying? Like it just matches the summertime vibe. I guess, you know, the hot girl herself, the originator of Hot Girl Summer, of course, summertime has to involve some Meg. And of course, I'm Jamaican, so I listen to a lot of Jamaican artists year round. Let me take a look at my artist list. My music taste, I'm not gonna lie, it's quite boring. Like as soon as I find a song or an artist that I like, that's just my artist and no one else's. And there's like, I'm very loyal to them. I don't need to listen to anyone else. And for like another maybe 6 months, and I'm like, okay, let's refresh this. What actually happened this morning? You know what? Not for the winter, but I'm really into Victoria Monet right now. I was a bit late to the party, like I imagine so many people were, but I'm just like, no, actually, she's a vibe, like for real. So I would say I would listen to her year round. I don't think I have a specific winter artist, but yeah, those are the types of artists I have in rotation.
Yeah, no, love that. I think my winter artist, I love listening to a bit of Joni Mitchell. I feel like that's like real cozy. Yeah. And also it's like one of her songs is in my favorite Christmas film, which is Love Actually. And I literally have like sat there like walking along, like crying to this song because it reminds me of Love Actually. Cute. So in today's episode, guys, I wanted to talk with Tee all about queer dating shows, because Tee has covered queer dating shows and other the dating shows and reality shows over on her channel. And there's been a real emergence in queer dating shows recently, which very much sort of correlates with increased visibility of queerness in general. So some like highlights are The Ultimatum, Queer Love. Also, did you ever watch Are You the One?
I didn't.
Do you know what it's about at all?
No.
It's insane. Like basically what Are You the One is about is they put like I think it's like 10 guys, 10 girls into a house, and experts, use that term loosely, experts match up who is like the one. And as a house, they have to pair up. And then if they all pair up successfully within the 12 weeks that they're there, they all split a cash prize of $1 million.
Okay.
So like already it's like a sort of 1 in 10 chance. You know, the chances is realistic. And then they made a season where everyone was bisexual. And I'm like, this is genius. This is absolute genius that they made, because it's literally like, not only does it make the show harder, but it's also just like another queer dating show to add to the roster. Mm-hmm. And then there was also this show in the UK, I Kissed a Boy, which was a gay dating show. And what have been your favorite queer dating shows that you watched recently, or just any queer dating shows that you have any thoughts on?
I would say that my favorite thus far has been the Queer Ultimatum, mostly because I've not like watched too many queer shows, because I'm kind of touchy about them in that if it's not being done right, or I can tell that it's specifically being exploitative, then I'm just like, But yeah, the Queer Ultimatum did really stick out to me. I kind of like that show.
Yeah, and I would absolutely love to know your thoughts, because I feel like this discourse doesn't really get spoken about. Oh my God, discourse. Gets spoken about very often. But I remember a few years ago, there was a conversations around whether Love Island should add queer people in, because have queer contestants, because even when the contestants are queer, like there's a lot of contestants that are bisexual, a lot of the time they won't actually include them ever discussing their sexuality. Yeah. And I have seen some people argue that, well, Love Island is a trashy TV show. We shouldn't want to make it queer. We should want, the best shows for queer representation. But on the other hand, some people sort of argue that queerness should be so mainstream that they should also get trashy TV shows too. Yeah. So I would love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with the latter. I mean, there's trashiness, there's messiness, there's ill-informed values, and like people acting on that across the sexuality spectrum. So like, yeah, include the messiness of queerness. The only thing that I think I would have some pushback on is if there were queer specific issues that were exploited, like issues that I guess straight people don't exactly face maybe to the same level of intensity that queer people do. I wish I could think of one off the top of my head, but like, yeah, if they were to center an issue that's like really queer specific and then was exploiting it, then I would be like, okay, maybe. But just, people wanting to find love and acting a damn fool to obtain that, I think we should see that across sexualities. And also, I love Love Island, and what's going on with the British? Why do y'all deem that a trashy reality show? I think that is like such a proper reality show. I mean, aside from the fact, I know that they've toned it down in recent seasons, but aside from the fact that they are like really fucking with a capital F on that show, I think that like the budget is there. It looks like they're having fun, even though sometimes they're not. Everyone looks nice. What's trashy about it? Am I missing something as an American?
I think, to be fair, I blame like the Love Island shit on men. Ooh. It's always men that are the ones that are like, I actually don't watch that stuff, and then go and watch 5 hours of football on a Sunday. Like, do you know? And I think a lot of it's down to that. And then I think a lot of a lot of the Love Island, most vocal Love Island haters have never actually watched it before. I think a lot of it boils down to misogyny, because the people who people say like, oh, this person, like when someone thinks of a Love Islander, what do you think of? You think of a woman. You never think of the men that go on that show. And yeah, like I think again, it's like boils down to misogyny, and I think British people are really fucking uptight. Some of them, like, like it's like if you're born here, you are like you're quite uptight. And I think reality show comes into like one of those things that like anyone is like men, a lot of men, not all men. Oh, ignore that. I just said that.
Oh, but enough for us to clock it.
Mm-hmm. And also and also people over the age of like 35. Like my parents hate Love Island for some reason.
Yeah,
and they feel like they've got like vim. Like they're like, oh, I fucking hate that show. Like it's like how like I feel like everyone's parents really hate the Kardashians, but like not for the reasons that they're like problematic, just because they're on reality TV.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know what informs that. I think maybe because they're recognizing that we're creating a new lane of making money. Like just the entrepreneurship has really diversified itself in even just the past 20 years. So maybe seeing reality TV stars and like, there's no way you're this fucking rich and famous and doing that. Like I could do that. I've definitely heard that from the older generation. Like I could get up there and do that. Like I'm sure you could, Uncle Bob. I'm sure you could. But yeah, that's. I think that's why like maybe the older generation doesn't fuck with it. But like reality TV, I think should be here to stay. But there should be some more regulations, because when it gets dark, it gets really, really dark. And then like no one should have to go through what some contestants go through just so that we could get a quick laugh or be able to gossip, you know?
Definitely. I think I've actually found it watching the most recent Love is Blind reunion, and obviously reading the hashtags to try and form my own opinion, because I've never had an original thought in my life. This is me watching all of Tee's videos, like making sure I have the correct takes. But like I was watching it with my boyfriend, and everyone was in the reunion. Everyone was like sort of like bollocking each other, like going after each other, like you should have done this. Well, you shouldn't have done this. Blah, blah, blah. And it all just felt a little bit sanctimonious. Like I think that like I love analysing reality TV. I love it. But also I think that the sort of everyday like watcher, so I think people fail to consider the like the circumstances, and like you don't know how you would act if you were locked away, but you know, locked away in a villa for 8 weeks with no phone. You don't know what the time is. You're not even allowed to have a book, like no entertainment other than talking to each other. You don't know how, like what that would bring out in you.
Yeah, especially when your back is unexpectedly against the wall. I think of like Love Island contestants, like I think her name was Danica, or you know, like those or even Arabella for this most recent, the All-Star season, for the time that you spent being this super attractive person and not getting any play, and you're secluded and you don't know what time it is, and there's like the walls are talking to you, telling you when to get up and eat and go to sleep. Like I think I would act a fool. Like, y'all really got me up in here and they treat me like I'm me? Like, I would really be acting up, and that's not even, you know? So, yeah, none of us know how we would act, and I think that we should give grace when watching that and kind of just like, I guess, consume it at face value. And that's so weird to say as a cultural critic, because I'm not consuming it at face value. Like, my job is literally to dissect it. But I think if it's not your job, then you should just watch it and consume it for that, because, like, yeah, everything's circumstantial.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think actually one thing that I would like to see Love Island do, because I find that it's getting a little bit formulaic. I mean, the drama is good, and if I was locked away for 8 weeks, I didn't know what the time was, I would absolutely be crying over a man that I've known for 3 days. Like, come on. Sure. But I would love to see them add more like differentiation with their contestants, and I want to see them throw through a few goths in there. I want to see an emo. I want to see people of completely different subcultures and lifestyles. I think that would be really fun. Like, I need to see an Essex boy fall in love with a goth girl. Like, I have to see it.
Yeah. And you know, like, if it was queer, I'm trying to see like what exactly would I want. I think I would want to see like I would want to see that stuff that makes people really uncomfortable, like maybe a shorter masculine lesbian and a super tall femme. You know, I would want to see like things like that. I would want to see people who U-Haul, and like how that's like even more intense now that you're in this like secluded space. Like, I would want to see how quickly can we get that first "I love you" out. How quickly can people start imagining, like, you know, if I could get you pregnant, I would do that. Right? Like, when are we gonna hear that first? I think that'd be so interesting.
So interesting. I want a triple divorcee.
Exactly. I want the lesbian who only dates straight women, and now she's in here with actual women who like women, and yeah, I want to see them, like, you know, be like, oh, so let me shut up because I was really about to take it somewhere, but you know, I just want to see like the pressure be put on, but in a fun way. Like, please, let's not like hurt people's feelings too bad.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I would love to tell you about this show called Playing It Straight. Have you heard of this show before?
No, I haven't. I'm excited. Tell me.
You are in for a wild ride. I would say that this was probably one of the first queer reality shows which sort of centered around queerness, not necessarily in a good way, but you know, it was like the first reality show was, it wasn't just like, oh, there's a few queer contestants. It's like, oh no, being queer is part, like, queerness is part of the almost the USP. So Playing It Straight, there is a UK and a US version. They aired in 2004 and 2005, and the synopsis is that there are 10 men battling for one woman's affection, and an undisclosed amount of these men are gay and others are straight. And she has to eliminate them one by one. And the final guy that she chooses, if he's straight, they split the cash prize of $1 million. This is in 2004, by the way, so that's a lot of money. Or if he's gay, he steals the entire thing.
No. Like, this was real. Like, how many seasons did it happen for?
It got cancelled after 3 episodes on Fox, but the episodes are there. Okay. But in the UK, there was one season in 2005, and then they brought it back in 2012 for some reason. Maybe they were celebrating gay marriage being legalized. Like, I don't know, but crazy way to celebrate. But so they relaunched it again in 2012, and there were like tests and challenges as per many reality shows. But these, I can't help but laugh because it's so ridiculous. They were like tests in like masculinity. So like one of the first tests was they got the men to put up a shelf, and you know where you're like, this. Like,
I'll put up a shelf.
And you know, oh my God, it's so absurd. And I think there was putting up a shelf, there was like horse riding, taking them out on dates. There was one challenge where they had to like ride a bull. So like, you know, those bulls that like buck around.
The mechanical bulls or the real ones?
It was real. So I'm watching this like, this is like, there's no way. Like 2004 was the Wild West. Like there is no way. So each boy would be taken individually, and they'd be like, okay, go on the bull. And they would go on it. And then when they were about to draw the thing, they would go, we're only joking, but you did it, so we're giving you a tick.
Oh my God.
And so then there were like a few guys that were like, I'm not even getting on that thing. Like, I can't do it. And they would be like marked down as like not being masculine enough. And I think the most out of pocket, like wild thing that I saw on that show was, I think it was in like the first episode, the girl was going through, she went to the male quarters when they weren't there and started going through their stuff to try and like sense, I don't know what she thought she was going to find, but she ends up finding on one guy a pink shirt and a tub of Vaseline, and she eliminates him because she thinks he's gay. It's so absurd. Like, I could not believe it. But I think something which is so interesting about it is it's such good analysis on society at the time and how far we have come in 20 years. Reality TV is essentially a time capsule. Yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, so leading with the last thing you said, reality TV is a time capsule, and it's almost indicative of like what we were willing to put up with, what we of course found funny, and it's, you wonder like, okay, if this is entertaining, well, what was the dark stuff? Because that already seems pretty dark, like, but anyway. My thoughts on that show, I kind of want to see it, especially if it's only 3 episodes. I want to see what was really going on. Like, obviously, this is just a test of, like, heteronormativity. Like, how can we, but I still want to see, like, you really thought that this would determine if someone's gay or not? And then, like, what if the person is lying at the end of it? Like, there are so many steps that I'm just like, how is this legit? How could this have possibly even been something? But it seems so that seems hilarious. I wonder what the femininity courses or challenges might have been if they would have flipped it.
Ooh, playing it gay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder what that would, especially in like today's times, it'd be so interesting. Because I even think if they brought back playing it straight now, which I really, really don't think they would be able to, because it just doesn't vote. Like, even watching, like, we can sort of look back on it now and just laugh at the absurdity of it all. Like, because I think it was more, at least when I was watching it as someone who's queer, and like a vast majority of my friends, especially my male friends, are queer, I was like watching it through the lens of, I thought the butt of the joke was on the woman. Because I was like, this girl's being ridiculous, like eliminating a guy because he has a tub of Vaseline. Like, this is absurd. But of course, 20 years ago, people could have been watching it thinking the butt of the joke was on the queer people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. No notes. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and it's just crazy, like, how reality TV and just TV in general is almost up for interpretation. Like, it's almost like text, like the way that people take things. Like, I find watching TV with a man, a straight man as well, to be so interesting, because we like always, not always, but we like butt heads on a lot of things, because like as soon as a man's in the wrong, I'm like, get his ass, I hate him. Duh! And my boyfriend's like, you need to calm down. What he did wasn't that bad. And I'm like, that bad? So you do that to me? Yeah. Wow.
So you do that to me is, no, exactly. Because that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, if it's not that bad, then would you do it?
Yeah, and he's like, I wouldn't do it because I've been with you for 3 years. This is a reality show. It's not real life. And I'm like, then why are you watching it then? The stakes are so real for me.
For sure.
Do you want to know a spoiler on the British winner, or are you planning on watching this show?
Yeah, go ahead and give me the spoiler.
So the winner was this guy called Ben. He was very like typical builder sort of like lad. He was a labourer, and he was, I don't know whether I'd describe him as masculine, but he was very just like, yeah, I'm a builder. This is what I am. I'm a builder. Da, da, da. And she chose him, and he was gay, and he stole the money, and he actually won Mr. Gay UK. Good for him. I'm glad he got his money. Like, I was so happy when he won. Like, I literally jumped in the air like I was watching football. Like, I was like, yes, like, so good. And he got like 100 grand or something. And I hope he's doing well.
I hope he's doing marvelous.
Yeah, because he played her at her own game. And I think that was great.
As he should have, yeah, because like, what?
Yeah, so like, I'm glad that a queer person benefited from this insane show.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, the funniest thing about watching this show is like seeing the distraught on this woman's face when a man would tell her that he was straight. he's like, it would be like, she'd be like, so are you playing it straight? And he's like, I'm not playing it straight. I am straight. And she's like, oh my God. Like, oh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So do you have any other thoughts on like things that you want to share to do with queer dating shows or just queer reality TV in general?
Queer, I have some thoughts about queer themes in reality TV. I'm thinking about Potomac right now, Real Housewives of Potomac. There, where I am in the season is allegedly one of the husbands was at a party. It's late night, everyone's drunk, and he says in reference to another husband there, yeah, I'd suck his dick. And that was like this huge thing. And that was in recent years. And oh gosh, like I was just trying to figure out, well, what is the problem here? Because the needle kept moving. Like, is it that, okay, obviously it's uncomfortable that if you think your husband is straight, that he's saying that in reference to another man, but like at the same time, he's this white Australian guy. Not to put labels on white Australian men, but like I've met a few and they say things like that. So I'm like, okay, or is the issue that like a husband was offended, or is the issue, I couldn't figure out what it was. They were kind of just arguing about that, and I was like, wow, like there could have been some space for I guess a little bit of sexual ambiguity in here. But again, because like the show is the Real Housewives and everyone has the image of marriage and it needs to be perfect and prim and proper, I think like just inviting any sort of ambiguity probably isn't the word, but just like anything that deters from,
doesn't
like,
fit.
Yeah, like it is outside of that box was just like not all right. Infidelity is okay, of course. Of course, no, that fits. We of course can make space for some adultery at all times, but like a little slightly queer, well, pretty queer comment is like, you know, enough to split the show in half. I was just like, oh my goodness.
It almost has like but I think there's like a lot to like flesh out there when it comes to like male sexuality specifically, because I do think if one of the wives, actually now that I say it in my head it sounds a little bit extreme, but like if one of the wives was like, oh, I love her, I'd eat her out or something like that, I don't think it would be handled with as much gravity as like, oh yeah, I mean in his Australian accent, oh yeah, I'd suck his dick. Like, do you know what I mean?
Jordan, on these shows, at the Atlanta franchise included, I'm watching it and I've been watching it with another queer woman and we're just like, this bitch is gay. Like, she's so gay. The way it's like everything has to, when they have fun and they get a little liquor in them, you know what I'm saying? Why is everything so body to body, so skin to skin? Because you're a little bit gay. Like, just like explore that. What I'm trying to say is like the way that queerness is, or queer themes are introduced into these straight shows are always so out of pocket. And it's like, there was an easier way. There really, really was. So yeah, that's what I've been noticing in the reality shows that I've been consuming. Like the queer themes are always wedged in there in the worst and most questionable ways.
I actually went through a phase recently, and I truly got to get back to it. I started watching, I feel like this is quite random for me because I've never watched Love and Hip Hop before, but I started watching Love and Hip Hop Miami, and there was like two gay guys, there was three gay guys actually, and one of them had been like closeted for a really, really long time, to a mask, one was a bit more femme, and the mask guy and the femme guy were boyfriends, and then the mask guy started cheating on the femme guy with the other mask guy who had just recently come out, and it became this like whole thing of the previously closeted mask guy was saying how he's like, oh, you like this insert slur here, was calling the femme gay guy slurs and all this really derogatory language because he was feminine. And it was just, and again, it was just so like much to watch. I honestly did not know how to feel about it, because I feel like as like a queer person, you you sort of automatically root for someone who used to be closeted. Like, you're like, live your truth. And then as soon as they start perpetuating the homophobia, which does negatively affect them, all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to root for you any longer.
Yeah. It's just, it's weird. And I think that's one of the reasons why the queer ultimatum, as critical as I can be of it, that wasn't happening. Like, there was no, to my recollection, no attacks on people's levels of queerness or presentations of queerness, which is another thing that I feel like that needs to be one of those baseline regulations. If we're going to make queer reality TV a thing and give it as much attention as other reality TV, that needs to be one of those things that are just like, okay, yeah, everyone presents their queerness differently, expresses their queerness differently, and yeah, like, let's just respect that type of thing, because so much, there's, as we've discussed, like, there's so many different ways that these stories can be told and unfold. But if we're stuck on the baseline of like how someone looks or their sexual history or anything like that, like, it's just, let's skip to the good part. Like, we are wasting time at this point.
I completely agree with you. Oh, I've loved talking about queer dating shows with you. I've loved picking your brain. So the way that we finish off voice notes episodes is we do a little voice notes agony art segment. So if you do have a problem that you want to send to me, it is voicenotesfixmylife@gmail.com. Make them juicy. I remember someone sent me with proof that their dad was dating a Republican senator and like what she should do. It was crazy. Obsessed with that queen. I love she was like, here's proof if you don't believe me. I'm like, if anyone would lie about this, that is crazy, because it's so niche. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So let me read out this problem.
Okay.
And it like starts pretty like and then it gets pretty crazy. So, hi Jordan. So I've been going out with my boyfriend since September of last year. She sent this in August of 2023, so they've been together for 2.5 years, and she may have broken up with him already because it's been such a long time. But he doesn't know that our song isn't really our song, and I don't know if I could ever tell him. Before I was with him, I was in love with this friend of a friend at uni who was just the right person, wrong time. I never knew that he liked me back, so I ended up hurting his feelings by being too cold and never telling him how I felt. I don't know this was the reason we stopped talking, so I just figured that he wasn't interested. Lack of communication. Anyway, summer came around and I thought I'd shoot my shot in case there was something there. So this is with the same previous guy, the ex, in case there was something there, and we ended up going on a date and getting on so well. I stayed over and we hung out for 3 days straight. Oh, I love dates like that. We showed each other our favorite music and movies, and we even went to the cinema to see the 25th anniversary show of The Big Lebowski because it's his favorite. Nothing ever came of us after that, because we just didn't find the time to see each other, and we weren't really texters, but I was still obsessed with him. And I would listen to The Man in Me by Bob Dylan over and over again because he loved that song because of the film. So when I met my now boyfriend, I was still playing the song on repeat, and I got him hooked. And we would dance in the kitchen to it and sing to each other and all that cringy sweet stuff. He even said he would want it to be our first dance song if we got married. And we saw Bob Dylan live on holiday last year.
No.
I was telling my friend about this, and we were talking about the uni guy and how it's a shame nothing ever came of us. And she mentioned that at his birthday, he said he was sorry he didn't invite me, but I'd really hurt him. This has sent me spiraling. I was happy to forget about him, but now I know he liked me back the whole time. I can't stop thinking about what could have happened, and I feel guilty every time I listen to that song with my boyfriend. I really don't know what to do. I feel awful keeping this from my boyfriend.
Shall you begin or shall I?
It's very rare that a problem leaves me speechless. And also, I've read this twice because I always practice reading it before I read it to a guest. So I would say that I don't think he needs to know that the song isn't your song. I am very much of the belief that sometimes lying is good. I do lie to save people's feelings if telling the truth isn't super necessary. You know, obviously there's exceptions to this, but like if I've broken up with a partner and they're like, why? And the reason why is something that will hurt their feelings, I will just lie and I'll say, oh, it's not you, it's me, blah, 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 you know, to save their feelings, because sometimes not everyone needs to know the whole truth. But when it comes to you all of a sudden reevaluating everything because you found out that he liked you back, I think to maybe like reevaluate the relationship you're in if you do feel this way, especially if you haven't been together for that long, to already feel like these pangs of longing for someone else. It could say something about the mindset you're in and the relationship. But also on the other hand, you guys aren't together for a reason. I think like if you guys are terrible texters and you can never find the time to see each other, why is it going to be any different now?
Yeah. So like for me, it just sounds like the song was kind of used as a symbolic continuation of that past situation. And so since the old guy wasn't around, like he was kind of substituted. Now, I'm not saying that like, and you know what, whoever sent this in, if that like really hit you in the gut, then like maybe evaluate, like, is this person a placeholder to continue the story that couldn't have been with the initially casted person. So yeah, I think that personally, when I've had a number of love songs that have hit for a number of different lovers, right? Like I'm not gonna throw out a really good love song just because, you know, it didn't work out with someone. But I just regard that as, okay, this is a love song, but I'm not gonna bring it to someone else like this is our song, because that's just weird. I don't know. All of this is just striking me as weird. If I have ever declared this is our song with someone, then okay, that can just be the soundtrack to that particular moment in my life. And then moving forward with someone else, I think it's only fair to give them a fresh song. There's so many love songs out there. And I think that even if it was in a harmless way initially, as it started to get deeper and deeper and you saw that this new guy was gaining a love for this song, like, and really viewing it as something super important, the brakes should have been pumped. That's my idea. I really think that maybe at this point, especially if, did he say that he wanted to dance to it at their wedding?
First dance, not just a dance,
okay.
First.
Yeah, something needs to be said, because like imagine the embarrassment if the truth were to come out in a different way. Imagine how you would feel. Yeah.
Oh, true. I agree.
If you want to avoid that confrontation altogether, just come up with a new song, throw that old song away. You know, every time it's like, oh, can you put on some music that's not even in the rotation? Like, just phase it out silently if you can manage that. Which, sis, I'm not even gonna lie, you sound a little sneaky. You probably can manage it just fine. So yeah, just execute it that way. It'll be fine.
I definitely think to like circle back to the other woman, the other man, is I find it very interesting, not to psychoanalyze, but to psychoanalyze. Is I find it interesting that she spoke way more about university guy than she's spoken about her current boyfriend.
That's why I said what I said.
She's saying like, oh, like we went to go see Bob Dylan. We love this song. We danced to it in the kitchen. But when you're talking about university guy, you're saying we spent 3 days together after our first date. I can't stop thinking about what could have been. It was the right person, wrong time. If I found out my boyfriend referred to another woman as the right person, wrong time.
Oh, hell to pay for everyone involved.
Yeah, exactly. So I would definitely think it through, because I think it's so difficult when you're in a relationship and you're like, I do love this person, but it's like, it's so difficult to view a relationship. Like in hindsight, it's so easy to look back on your old relationships and think, I should have broken up with them sooner. Da, 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 da. It's really easy it's really hard when you're like in it and they're like constantly texting you and you're constantly hanging out and you're like happy, but is it right?
Exactly. And I mean, ask yourself, if this uni guy were to come back and be like, okay, everything's perfect and it's aligned and we can give this another go, are you dropping your current guy? And if so, it might be deeper than just the song.
That's so true. Because, and again, you have to think about this guy's feelings as well. Like, I don't know what he's like or anything, but I think he sounds like that he really, really likes you and loves you. If he's talking about what you're going to dance to if you get married, even if it's just an if and not a when you say to someone, if we get married, that person's in love.
I can't, especially as a lesbian, I cannot disagree. I cannot disagree.
But please send me an update, not to bollock you too much, babes.
and you send me that update once you get it too, because now I'm invested.
I am so invested. Please, if you're listening to the episode, send an update. People do send updates. It's so sweet. Like, it's literally like, it's like I have a parasocial relationship with them. Like, I'm like, oh my God. And the thing is, I don't have any pictures of them. I don't know like what their Instagram handles are or anything. So I've just got like this picture of them in my mind. And I'm like, oh, I think about them all the time.
It's funny.
But I am going to wrap this episode up here. Thank you so much, Tee. This has been such a fun episode. And I will link all of Tee's stuff in the description. She makes my favorite videos, and every single time I have a commentary YouTuber on my podcast, I'm like, you should start a podcast because I'm going to listen.
That's funny. Yeah, I've heard that before, but for now, I'm just going to be, supporting and coming on to beautiful, amazing podcasts like this.
Oh, thank you so much, Tee.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy with this episode. And I will see you guys soon for the next one. Bye.